I know many of you are experiencing sudden low energy, a spat of bad luck, increasing family friction, unexpected or unusual anxieties at work, strange health maladies. All this is to be anticipated. There are symptoms of energy deprivation, as all the energy from the last dose of energy received in the 60s is being used up. Analogetic of what happens in the desert between seasonal rains, where the water is used up and the animals are in derision, waiting desperately for the next rain. The symptoms will increase as the darkness of the night is just before dawn. The earth is rocking and reeling from a massive energy wave that has embraced it. Quote, it is momentous in the heavens and the earth. It will not come to you but of a sudden. End quote. Quote, when the earth is shaken with her shaking, and the earth brings forth her burden, and when man says, what has befallen her? End quote. The earth is absorbing the energy, converting it into a useful form, a form that will energize every living thing suddenly. The help of Allah has arrived. It will touch you in a few moments. You will be transformed in a twinkling of an eye. The energy wave will wash away all sin, all pain, all troubles, all tears. The seed of Abraham, the inheritors, the people of promise, will be elevated to supremacy as riding the crest of an irresistible tidal wave that brings destruction to everything in its path, bestowing forgiveness and power on the riders. The divisions are growing, becoming more stark, more acute. Quote, mother against daughter, father against son, mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law, end quote. This is the scenario revealed for the last days, a sign of the Son of Man's presence. Contention, enmity, and strife between America and her former slaves is coming to a boil. The story of Samson provides insights to the events which are unfolding. Samson, betrayed, beaten, blinded, enslaved, oppressed, regains his strength but not his sight/wisdom. Angry, seeking revenge, he brings down the entire country, killing everyone, including himself. These are the Negroes, mostly demons/black-faced Caucasians, who, in their ignorance, strikes out blindly, devoid of knowledge, at everyone, destroying them and themselves in the process. The so-called race problem is about to explode in America and Britain. The war imminent in the Middle East will ignite it. Blacks will burn cities down. There will be great insurrection, greater than anything America has ever experienced. Blacks are the plagues of Revelations, the angel. They will be a great plague on America, such calamity, so terrible. Blacks will unite against the whites and everyone else, a great united army, great and united for a moment. Then there will be an internal matter of the sort that plagued black unity in the 60s. The ins versus the outs. Those who are fighting to get in. They want greater access to daddy, recognition, a bigger piece of the pie. And those who want no parts of the slave master, they are the outs. They want out. The chaff and wheat controversy. It wasn't resolved in the 60s, each faction going their own way with animosity towards the other. But it will be resolved this time. A great polarization, one led by the Farrakhan's and the other led by the Son of Man. The originals versus the demons. The devils will promise the demons, their black-faced children, everything, as America will be in desperate straits with war overseas between Russia and Europe and insurrection at home. Just please, please, just help win the war. While the Son of Man and all his elect will exit with Farad. The demons/chaff will have been separated from the saints/wheat. The demons will run back to their daddies/swine to fight their daddy's war, and they will all run off the cliff together. War breaks out in heaven. The dragon and his angels fought, and Michael and his angels fought. This is a war that will soon break out in the Middle East/heaven. A war between Michael/Farad and the dragon. A war that will start in the Middle East and engulf the earth/America and Europe. A war that will end in the utter destruction of the West, so-called Western civilization. The mysterious dragon. If one is going to talk about the dragon, they should at least study to know what they are talking about. The ignorant, quote, student ministers, unquote, of the anointed talk as though they know something about the dragon, which they don't. The dragon has 7 heads and 10 horns, with crowns on each of its 7 heads. What does that all mean? They cannot tell you, nor can their anointed. They know they don't know, and their anointed knows that he doesn't know, which makes them liars and deceivers, as they are presenting themselves as knowing something of which they have no clue. The most ignorant, quote, God, unquote, in all history, as he portrays himself. The dragon hated the righteous seed of the woman, quote, and was made wrathful, the dragon, upon the woman, and it went off to make war with the leftover of the seed of her, of the observing the commandments of God and having the witness of Jesus, end quote. These are the NOI who the dragon/Sunnis hate and wish to extinguish. they call the followers of Elijah shirk and non-believers. The dragon hates the righteous seed of the woman /NOI. Quote, and was made wrathful the dragon upon the woman, and it went off to make war with the leftover of the seed of her, of the observing the commandments of God and having the witness of Jesus. End quote. The dragon hated the righteous seed of the woman. Quote, and was made wrathful the dragon upon the woman, and it went off to make war with the leftover of the seed of her, of the observing the commandments of the God and having the witness of Jesus. End quote. These, the righteous seed, are the NOI who the dragon /Sunnis hate and wish to extinguish. They call the followers of Elijah shirk and non-believers. The story of Balaam is a story of the dragon and his effort to extinguish Farad's message. Balaam /Farad is riding on an ass /Farrakhan who fears the angel with the sword /Sunnis and has to be whipped 3 times because he goes the Sunnis way instead of Elijah's /Farad's way. The first whipping was a physical one. The second will be universal humiliation. And the final will be death. One might ask, why is Farrakhan moving the NOI towards Sunni, away from Elijah? The dragon is Saudi Arabia, currently led by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud. Who is Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud? He is a jinn. He calls himself a Sunni. He worships Dajjal, America, who he prays to for aid and support from the Shia. He's a friend of Satan, false Israel. Yet he claims to be Muslim, a follower of Muhammad. The AL-INJIL reveals that Sunniism is the golden calf, and that Saudi Arabia is the dragon, whose power and authority rests in its 7 crowned heads. The European countries, which include America /Gog, Britain /Magog, and false Israel /Antichrist, all which are referred to as the West. Yes, Saudi Arabia is the force behind the scenes. Could it be because without Saudi Arabia's oil, which was/is the lifeblood of the West for 70 years, the West would not have become so powerful and prosperous? The West could not have built such a dreadful arsenal of weapons and military technology without the steady flow of cheap oil from Saudi Arabia. Who is like the beast? Who can make war with it? Make no mistake. Without the abundant, literally unrestrained access to the seemingly inexhaustible and cheap Saudi oil, the West would not be what it is technologically. Oil is the life's blood of the West, as much as slavery was the muscle that built America. As when the agricultural age bowed to the industrial age, and slaves were no longer needed, thus cast aside into a ditch filled with vipers. So it is becoming the fate of the dragon, who is losing power to the beast, as newer sources of energy are discovered, unleashed. Saudi's inexhaustible oil reserves are becoming less inexhaustible as the industrial age is succumbing to the AI age. Attention is becoming ever focused on Saudi Arabia. The dragon, as the AL-INJIL reveals, that the dragon will initiate the so-called war of Armageddon. They are the fuse. Quote, war broke out in the Middle East. The dragon and his angels / Gog, Magog, America and Britain fought, and Farad and his angels / Shia fought. Michael / Farad and his Shia prevailed, defeating Saudi Arabia and its allies / America, Britain, and false Israel. So we see that the dragon / Saudi Arabia kindles the war. It will be shown in subsequent slides that the dragon / Saudi Arabia is the rider on the fiery red horse of the second seal of the AL-INJIL / Revelations, who, quote, takes peace from the earth so that they will begin to slaughter each other, end quote. What will Saudi Arabia do within the next few days that will ignite the tinderbox? Will they attack Iran, invoking retaliation, which will draw America into conflict with Iran in support of Saudi Arabia, which in turn draws in Russia to support Iran? Make no mistake, war between Iran and America is but days away. Who will strike first? Saudi Arabia is shooting out sparks. Who will it ignite first? That's the real story. America is threatening Saudi Arabia over the alleged murder of journalist Mr. Khashoggi. Though Mr. Trump is reluctant to act against Saudi Arabia, the increasing cries from Congress may cause his reluctance to evaporate. The Saudis' position is denial in the face of firm and convincing evidence. Mr. Trump wants to play it down, but the cries against Saudi Arabia are resonating and the hawks are turning up the volume. The Middle East is so tense, so fragile now that any spark will ignite the entire region. What will America do? What will be Saudi Arabia's reaction? Whatever the dynamics, it will lead to war. The situation is unstable and it can't be contained. It is critical that one understands that the stability of the Middle East rests on the relationship between Saudi Arabia and America. We witnessed this play out during 9/11, 9/11, where the perpetrators were primarily from Saudi Arabia, yet Iraq and Afghanistan were held responsible while Saudi Arabia was held blameless. If relations between America and Saudi Arabia explodes, the Middle East explodes. The West, Caucasian world, is about to explode. Explode within, explode without. The sword within, the sword without. Quote, and on that day we shall let some of them surge against others, and the trumpet will be blown. Then we shall gather them all together, and we shall bring forth hell exposed to view on that day before the disbelievers, whose eyes were under a cover from my reminder, and they could not bear to hear. End quote. Mr. Trump has lit the fuse. The timer is ticking. It's a very short fuse. America, Britain, Russia, and Europe casting thunderbolts at one another. Thunder, lightning, cities disintegrating in sudden intense heat. Fire and smoke, smoke and fire, fervent heat. smoldering in sulfur and fumes. Vengeance in the hearts, vengeance on the tongues of their oppressed, the descendants of innocent blood-soaked dreams, dreams soaked in blood, rising suddenly in the oppressor's time of trouble, her time of need. Then the flood, America's Asian and Oriental, quote, friends, end quote, India, China, Daniel's leopard yellow / China with brown / India spots will overwhelm / flood the West, drowning them all, destroying them all. Mr. Trump is pushing hard against Iran. Daniel references a quote / agreement, end quote, that will fail, resulting in war. The agreement is the agreement made by Mr. Obama with Iran that Mr. Trump ripped to shreds. Now Mr. Trump, the king of the South, aka the Persian king, is pushing hard against the king of the North / Iran. Daniel is a coded / sealed book. There, Persia is disguised as America. Mr. Trump has been warned, do not attack Iran, Allah's she-camel. But they don't seem to be heeding the warning. Actually, Mr. Trump has disregarded / dismissed the warning altogether. Mr. Trump is already at war with Iran, with his weapons of commerce, which are in many respects more deadly than bombs and missiles. Cruel, deadly acts of war. Mr. Trump has a bitter surprise waiting for him. Iran will not demur, concede, acquiesce to Mr. Trump's threats, demands, saber-rattling. Mr. Netanyahu, Mr. Trump's puppet master, is urging Mr. Trump to a disastrous, fatal defeat at the hands of a strong, purposeful, well-prepared, well-armed, fired up, and extremely motivated Iran. This great battle is but days away, a battle that will shake the blacks out of their coma. The dragon in the AL-INJIL is not the serpent. The serpent is the tail of the dragon. Before now, those who have speculated as to the identity of the dragon has gotten it all wrong. You can't decipher any aspect of the AL-INJIL / Gospels. I repeat, you cannot decipher any aspect of the AL-INJIL / Gospels, which include the parables, without the AL-INJIL key. You cannot. The AL-INJIL key is the key to unlocking the seals and the parables of the Gospels. Without, there is only conjecture. You must, as shown here with chapter 12, map all the verses / information in the chapter to the key to unlock its true meaning, which is often different or even adverse to what it appears to mean. The woman, clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet and on her head a crown of 12 stars. The woman is the original nation, the wheat that has been corrupted by the devils who are tormenting her to give birth to their seed, forcing their grafted seed / chaff into her. But she gives birth to a God unawares, far from the dragon's / devil's reach. The dragon is Saudi Arabia, the royal family who feeds the Jal. The house of Saud is in league with Gog and Magog, otherwise called the Jal. They have been fueling the West for 70 years, which has empowered the West with great wealth, power, and authority. Thus, the crowns, emblems of authority, are on the heads of the European nations. These are the primary nations. The islanders and so-called Native Americans are a derivative of the Asian nation, not independent nations. These five nations comprise the AL-INJIL key. The sun represents the Son of Man, aka Suleiman. Thus, there is none like him. He is supreme above all creation. Each nation has a Lord, which is the central being, and the wings represents kings. Each creature/nation was said to be full of eyes before and behind. This represents the fall and enslavement of the original nation forced from their land to be divided up among the nations. The original nation is cast as the seven spirits, the seven eyes. This represents all the nations, all the lords, and all the kings, such that Pharaoh is King of kings and Lord of lords by reason of being above all the lords, while Suleiman, the Lamb, is Lord of lords and King of kings by reason of being above all and different from all. Quote, none is like him, unquote. The earth is the bottom three. The sea are the next three, while the rivers are the following three. The heavens are the top three above all. Here we see the European nations, Jacob's grafted devils, the eagle creature, who are given power to rule the nations, called elders in the AL-INJIL, for 6,000 years. Subjugated nations are called elders because they are of the original nations, the angels. America has enslaved the original nation. Britain has subjugated Asia. Europe has colonized Africa. And Russia has ideological control of the Orient via communism. Iran and Syria, the Muslims of the European nations, are not guilty of European crimes of oppression of other nations. European nations are not counted among the elders because they are not original, rather they are grafted nations. The one sitting on the throne is not God. It is Satan, the God of the age of Yaqub, the God of the European nations. They throw their crowns/Shia down in 1990 at the behest of Satan when they invaded the Middle East under the pretext of freeing Kuwait from Iraq. This was the beginning of their attack on Islam, as stated in chapter 20, where once Satan was released from the pit/abyss after 1,000 years of the Dark Ages, they would go after those who threw them into the abyss, the followers of Muhammad, whose resurrection there bound the European powers. They would surround the holy city/Middle East and bring down out of the heaven in the sight of men drone attacks on the Muslims, which would ultimately lead to the destruction of Gog, Magog, and the Antichrist, America, Britain, and Israel. There is the woman, the dragon, the beast, and the serpent. The serpent is not the dragon. The serpent did not turn into a dragon. Dragon energy. The dragon is Saudi Arabia. The Sunni are the golden calf. The West depends on Saudi Arabia for their energy, which is the source of their power. But the authority is with the Western powers who control Saudi Arabia, even though they are dependent on Saudi Arabia's cooperation. The woman is the original nation which has been corrupted by the slave masters' raping of her for 400 years. They have been tormenting her, forcing her to bear their seed, the chaff, demons, black-skinned devils. But the woman is able to secretly produce an original child, a God king, far from the slave master's reach, Farad, who will rule the nations with his rod of iron, the Shia. The woman gives birth to two sons. Read it carefully. The son of man, Suleiman, and Michael, Farad. The dragon wants to devour Farad, his teachings, in their infancy before it can be born. This is the Sunni/dragon who hate the NOI and have and are doing everything they can to discredit, stop, extinguish it. The dragon in the AL-INJIL is not the serpent. The serpent is the tail of the dragon. Before now, those who have speculated as to the identity of the dragon has gotten it all wrong. You cannot decipher any aspect of the AL-INJIL/Gospels, which include the parables, without the AL-INJIL key. There are angels, devils, jinn, and demons. The demons are the seed of devils forced into the eggs of original women. They have the appearance of the original, but the nature of their fathers, devils. They are the hidden enemy, as they don't appear as devils, but are as deadly and hateful as their devil daddies. The dragon is the first, with the diadems on his 7 heads. The diadems represents his power and authority, which rests with the Caucasian nations. Caucasian nations are his 7 heads. The second, with the diadems on his horns, is the beast. This beast is the Asian and Oriental nations, who has taken power and authority from the dragon, from the Caucasian nations. The third, with no diadems, is the African nations, who share power with the beast that has diadems on his horns, China and India. The dragon with 7 diadems on his heads reigns from 1948 to 2018. The beast with 7 diadems on his horns, symbolic of China and India, reigned for 1 year, 2018, having wrested their power and authority from the Caucasian nations. The scarlet beast with no diadems is Africa, which will initially be with the beast having the diadems on his horns. Africa will initially be in league with India and China against Caucasian nations in the Great War. The archangel Michael is Farad. There should be no doubt about that. Michael is the deliverer, the slayer of Goliath, false Israel. Michael defeats the dragon. Michael is the closest angel to God himself, which is why he is called an archangel. Lucifer/Yakub envied Michael for that position, but Michael is faithful and true as stated in chapter 19 of the Injil. The dragon, Saudi Arabia, Sunni Islam, is at war with the NOI, which means they are at war with Michael/Farad. The Sunni are about to step up their attack on the NOI to take it off the planet, out of existence forever. Quote, the dragon hated the woman and went to war with her righteous seed, the NOI. End quote. Fact is, the Sunni have been at war with the NOI from its inception, its conception. But Elijah kept them at bay, frustrating all their plans and devices. But once Elijah was taken out of the way, the NOI was cast down, / the great falling away, and it fell into the hands of the son of perdition, Farrakhan, who is under the thumb of Saudi Arabia, the Sunnis. The dragon was powerful, powerful indeed, yet its authority rested with the European nations. The dragon, Saudi Arabia, reeling from its defeat from the Shia, a war that the dragon kindled, has its power and authority snatched from it by the beast, / China and India. China and India, the emerging powers, the most populous nations on the planet, takes advantage of the dragon's calamities to seize power and authority, while the heads of the dragon battles and slaughter one another. The beast will turn on the dragon and run at it like a whirlwind. The beast, called the goat in Daniel, will attack the heart of the dragon. Its three main heads, Gog, Magog, and the Antichrist, called the ram in Daniel. America, Britain, and false Israel. The goat / India and China, inspired, guided by Farad, the goat's eyes, will cross the Pacific like lightning, its feet not touching land, with fury and fierce hatred in its heart, to rip the ram to shreds. The goat hissed the ram with such kinetic force, buckling the ram, knocking the ram to his knees. The ram, America and Britain, trembling and floundering, is stamped down, ground to dust by the goat, and set ablaze, burned to a cinder. The beast is the flood of Noah. The woman becomes the ark. The flood is not literal water. It is a flood of people. The flood of a 200 million man army composed of troops from China and India. The leopard of Daniel is also the goat. The leopard, yellow / China with brown / India spots. 4 authoritarian heads are China, and 4 dramatic wings are India. The earth are the European countries, which will be flooded by the beast's armies, slaughtering / destroying everyone, everything. All the while, the elect of Suleiman, the elect of Farad, the elect of Elijah are in the ark, sailing free of the dragon and the beast, quote, far from the deafening, raging roarings of hell, end quote. After destroying the ram slash America, Britain, and the Antichrist, thus the dragon, the beast takes a brief break to lick his wounds and regain its strength. Once recovered and hungry, the beast, gazing over to the Middle East, sees a lamb, secure, grazing, and at peace from afar. Sensing an easy meal, creeps up on the lamb, but to his surprise, now up close, he realizes the lamb is really a lion, which upon seeing the beast, rises up on his hind legs, unfurls its claws, roaring, sinks them deep into the breast of the beast, violently ripping its thumping heart out. The second horse, the fiery red horse, is ridden by the house of Saud, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman al Saud. It is revealed here that it would be Saudi Arabia, the dragon, that would take peace from the earth slash European countries, such that they would go to war with each other, slaughtering each other. What will Saudi Arabia do that will kindle that imminent war? This is saying that there will be the sword within and the sword without. The quote, earth, unquote, is the so-called West, the European controlled countries. As shown, America will have external and internal enemies. America's most powerful internal enemy will be her aggrieved blacks. They will rise up as America is distracted, battling her external enemies. The spirit of rebellion is already percolating and visible. Notice the mutual animosity, the mutual enmity between the parties. There can be enmity and animosity without it being mutual. A son can hate his father without the father hating the son. But when it's mutual, it's usually is the result of cause and effect. The son's hatred brings on the father's hatred. So it is something that one does to the other that causes the other to respond in kind. We see America, mother, stroking tensions and inflicting economic distress on Russia, daughter. We see Britain, father, alienating itself from Europe, son, with the Brexit movement, which distances itself from the EU while taking on an ever accusatory attitude towards Europe. America and Britain united in its ever increasing condemnations of Europe. Further, America, mother, is taking on an increasing hostile attitude towards her black Christian population. Mr. Trump is ever dismissive and ever disdainful of blacks. This parable reveals that all these actions by America and Britain will reap a responsive consequence, which means open conflict, war. Britain/America versus Russia/Europe eternally, and Britain/America versus their blacks internally. In the division/contention parable, it is revealed that America and Britain, Gog and Magog respectively, will be united against Europe, Russia, and against their own black populations. Father versus son, mother versus daughter, and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law. This is very timely. It is actually occurring. Mother/America is in ever-increasing tension with daughter/Russia. Father/Britain has already forced a wedge between itself and the son/Europe with Brexit. We see tension and increasing friction between the Christian blacks/daughter-in-law and Mr. Trump, the government/mother-in-law. The so-called, quote, kneeling controversy, unquote, will only intensify, polarizing Mr. Trump and America's favorite pastime, the NFL, with the black Christians rallying to the defense of the ever-intransigent NFL black players. When the war begins, the animosity and the resistance to Mr. Trump will reach a fever pitch. Mr. Trump will be demanding that blacks, quote, show their patriotism, end quote, and enlist in his war of, quote, genocide of blacks by war, unquote. He will reenact the draft. The Christian blacks' resistance will be loud and violent. Insurrection. The Muslim blacks will have their say, and it will be thunderous. Their fear is actually a prophecy which will be realized. We must look into it and decipher it correctly. If that is their fear, and the fear becomes a major concern with the new Pharaoh, then what is his plan to deal with it? The problem is population, as shown in subsequent verses. The specified remedy is to kill the sons, kill the seed, but let the women live. That's genocide. They kill off the sons, they have killed off the race. Genocide. All this is in the context of war. How large an army would Mr. Trump need to fight a 200 million man army fielded by China? There is only upwards of 300 million people in America, only about 30 million blacks. He could justify drafting all the black males, sending them to their deaths. We are told clearly that they intend to be rid of us by killing the sons/males. How would they do that in these modern times? Quote, let us deal shrewdly with them, unquote. In other words, trick them. They would need to make you want to do it. They would have to remove any and all resistance to their plan. If they can get the Nation of Islam to go for it, it will remove the primary opposition of most blacks to their plan of genocide by war. Quote, they would have to make you think you are defending your country. End quote. We ain't going nowhere. America belongs to us. Devils ain't devils. They are the enemy. But then in war, the enemy of my enemy suddenly becomes my friend. Jews ain't bad anymore, just the satanic Jews. Wake up, original man. You are getting deceived and tricked and played by the, quote, mouth, unquote. Notice how he conveniently dropped the next verse in the Abraham prophecy Sunday, the part where we will return back to our original land. It was the very next verse, the next sentence. Are you going to your death, stupid and blind? The art of, quote, how to make enemies and antagonize people, end quote, is being raised to a new level by Mr. Trump. He really has no choice as America is being crushed under intense and overwhelming pressure. the consequence of her boundless evils, particularly against the original nation. Mr. Trump thinks that his, quote, awesome, powerful, unquote, weapons can defeat mathematics. Impossible. Not even Allah can defeat mathematics because he is the essence of mathematics. Justice has arrived on the shores of America. Consequence is his name. Pressure is increasing, and there is nothing Mr. Trump can do to stop or even slow it. It will crush him, America, and his, quote, vaunted, unquote, military machine. Pressure can crush anything except the original people. Pressure was our self-creative force. Mr. Trump is successfully alienating the EU/Europe. He is threatening and whipping Russia. He is disrespectful and dismissive of Black Christian populations' concerns and aspirations. He is openly antagonistic and disdainful of Blacks. He only differs from his predecessors, including Obama, by reason of his candidness, his openness. All this is happening real time before our eyes as I speak. This is clearly, quote, end time, unquote, prophecy. So why is the anointed wasting 2.5 hours trying to convince, quote, the believers, end quote, that there are righteous Jews? Is that like, quote, kosher pork, unquote? The scriptures are there to open our eyes to protect us from deception, which we are told will be boundless. If one knows the scripture, they will teach the scripture. All we get from the anointed is philosophies and opinions. Soon everyone will have to give an account of their actions relative to the scriptures, not relative to some philosophy or opinion. Quote, and I saw the dead, the great and little, having stood in sight of the throne, and little books were opened up, and other little books was opened up, which is the book of life, and were judged the dead out of the having been written in the little books according to the works of them, end quote. I have yet to have anyone step up to challenge what is being revealed. Quote, they just don't like it, end quote. If what I'm revealing is wrong, then step up and show how it is wrong and present what is correct. They never will because they don't know what any of the scriptures mean. They guess as the anointed does. Quote, righteous Jews, really? Unquote. Righteous Jews, really? America and Britain will stand alone in the war to come. The sword within and the sword without. America and Britain will stand alone against China/North Korea/South Korea/Vietnam and Russia/India. False Israel will be no help. They will have become a pariah, hated and scorned by everyone, even the evangelicals, when they realize their looming fate and the part that false Israel played in it. When they realize the depths of false Israel, the false prophet's deception. Their Black Christian slaves will rebel against them will they come to understand the true purpose of the war that America started. They will not be able to send millions of blacks to their deaths as they planned. Instead, they will have to fight with them in their cities. There will be a virtual civil war going on in America between the Christian blacks and the government. The divisions are already showing their fault lines. Mr. Trump has managed to alienate the entire world against America. As when I first revealed the meaning of the Brexit, things have gotten worse. Now we see, as prophesied, that even Europe is becoming alienated from America and Britain. The latest in a host of squabbles is friction and division over Iran. All this is symptomatic of ever-increasing pressure. Pressure reveals fault lines, cracks in an otherwise unified body. The fractures and fissions are only to worsen as America speeds headlong into war destruction. We are told that the Son of Man would be alone in his mission, that he would appear as a thief in the night, where the elements would dissolve with a fervent heat, and all the earth works will be burnt up. Well, that didn't happen with Farad. We are told that the Son of Man, Suleiman, would be rejected by his own, that they would not receive him. That didn't happen with either Farad nor Elijah. Farad had in excess of 60,000 followers. Elijah may have had much more, while Farrakhan has not been so fortunate. He, by his own mouth and the mouth of his national spokesman, is received wherever he goes. You would think that after 400 years of darkness, pain, and persecution, a people would be excited, ecstatic to get a visit from their Lord, the Son of Man. They would be, but there is a liar that is casting dark clouds between the Son of Man and his people. Elijah prepared the way, but the liar has been busy cutting off the ears of anyone who would hear/listen.